This episode of Real Trail Talk is brought to you by Green Door Vineyard and Winery, located in the picturesque Ferguson Valley. As a special offer for Real Trail Talk listeners, if you use the promo code Trail Talk, all one word, you will receive 10% off your first order. You can make your online order at greendoorwines.com.au. Hi, and welcome to Real Trail Talk. I'm Donovan D'Souza from The Long Ways Better.
And I'm Mark Pybus from The Life of Pi. Welcome to episode 71. We have reached the end of what has been a crazy year.
Rather, yes. Not quite the year that we thought. And I think if you listen to the previous version of this episode, you'll see quite a different year.
So I listened to this, I don't know, maybe the middle of the year.
So we're talking about the
2019 in review.
Yeah, because this is the 2020 in review.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I listened to that middle of the year, I think, and we got to the section where we're talking about our 2020 plans, and you had so much to do, and then COVID kind of hit, and I was like, oh, poor Don.
Yeah, I mean, it was not at all the year that I had planned. For the third time in a row, I didn't get to do the Thorsby Trail, so.
But
yeah.
Touch wood, a bit later on next year.
Yeah, hopefully we're booked in again. So yeah.
We're here to talk about our 2020s. That went remarkably different to what we'd planned, but then also what we did in response to that was very different too.
Yes, very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've had quite a more varied year than I did.
Oh, yeah. I probably had a more, let's just say, normal year.
Yep.
Whereas you went in completely the different direction.
Yeah.
Which I think was actually a very good idea by you.
So what Mark's talking about, obviously, is the Mundabiddi, which I kind of felt when all my plans had sort of just fallen away and disintegrated, and I thought about what I wanted to do this year, and I couldn't think of anything because I was just really down, because I just thought I've done all the hikes that are worthwhile that are not in the Kimberley. So because of that, I just didn't, I was just completely like, what am I going to do? And I realized that, the cycling thing was the thing, that there was a whole world I hadn't explored. And so the Mundabiddi really fit the bill for this year. Because I did it as basically a series of weekend rides with 1 week-long section, it meant that I had my whole year of adventures, one trail. I did one trail this year, basically, but it meant I had a whole year of adventure, so I really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate what the Mundabiddi did for me this year.
Yeah. We'll get onto that a bit later, so I think we'll continue the same format that what we usually do and go month by month. So, starting in January, February, the summer months, so it's a bit of a lull. Did you get up to anything after your New Zealand trip?
Well, so the New Zealand trip was technically I still was in 2020, I was hiking in New Zealand, so I did a few things there. I did the last 2 days of the Tongariro Northern Circuit, which I talked about in the previous episode, but also, it was just very strange because the last day we could see the smoke from the bushfires in Australia coming across, and that should have been an omen, I guess, for the year. Yeah, so I think that was the only hike that we did. I mean, we did stuff like, we did Mount Cook on a cool summer day, and did the Pierce Gully Loop. Just the things just for fitness and for fun, but didn't do anything new. Did you do anything over that period?
So January, no. So the end of or start of the year for me has typically been catching up on posts from the previous year. So I was still doing the ones from Victoria over Christmas and a few other posts. I think I wrote my end of Bibbulmun kind of thoughts and feelings. And then, Feb, I got back into the snorkeling again. I did the MAAC Dive and Snorkel Trail that's up near Marmion.
Yep.
That was quite cool. I saw my first eagle ray on there, so that was a pretty cool experience.
Yep.
And then I've had this thing where, like, for ages, like a few years now, and I actually did it when I first started, is I mapped out a few walks around where I live in Freo, but they were obviously very poor quality being from the start of the website. So I wanted to update a few of those and then add some in. So I did the East Freo River Walk and the North Freo River Beach Walk, which are actually really cool trails. Right in the heart of Freo that take you to some like really cool like off-track areas that you wouldn't think would be right in the middle of an urban setting.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. And then we did the Festival of Arran trip to Rottnest that we do every year.
Yep.
And I did snorkeling at Salmon Bay. We did the water bikes that have just a new addition to the island. That was pretty cool. And then in Feb I started just doing like random little hikes that I'd already done that I just wanted to do for fun, which is kind of a theme running through my year as well.
That was something you said last year, that you said you wanted to do more fun hikes.
And I actually did it this year.
That's good.
So one of them in Feb, I think I wanted to go up to Golden Lookout just like for sunrise, and obviously being summer it was quite early and I didn't make it, but I did kind of like a little half loop in the morning before it got hot, and that was good fun. And then March hit, and I didn't really do anything pre-COVID. And then I think it was the week before COVID started getting really serious and we had the lockdowns. I sprained my ankle playing basketball quite seriously. So like my year was stuffed at that point anyway, because I probably wasn't going to be able to hike for a while. But I ended up doing, that would have been post-lockdown, a trip out to Pattons Brook and Ball Creek. But I guess we should probably talk about the elephant in the room that is COVID at this point.
Yeah.
So it was like mid-March, wasn't it? The world kind of grappled that this wasn't just a China thing. This was going to be a worldwide issue. Yeah.
So I remember I was at work, and, you know, when it was a minor thing, I was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to go to Box Hill because, you know, working in Melbourne, Box Hill's like a super Asian neighborhood, and I love going there for the food. I was like, I'm not scared at all, you know, and because there was that fear mongering of it, you know, the Wuhan flu kind of racist kind of thing. And then we went, oh, actually this is a lot more serious than we thought it was going to be. And I kind of had an inkling that it was going to be that the borders were going to close. So the weekend just before things were announced, we went down to Denmark and we did the Bald Head Trail, and I'm so glad that I did that, because that held, you know, that really sort of held me together while in lockdown. I was, you know, grappling with all our plans for the year, you know, really just falling apart.
Yeah. So for me, when it first like became a bit serious, Karis had this weekend away planned, and I'd already guessed it. It was a trip to the tiny cabin that you see on Instagram out in to the Chittering Valley.
Yep.
And that was really, really cool. But it was kind of like I don't know, just sitting in the tiny cabin, staring out. Like, this is probably going to be our life for the you know, next few months with lockdown. And then it kind of it hit properly, and it wasn't just like another bird flu where it was confined to one area and it wasn't really an Australia issue. But once everything locked down, it became kind of real. I remember feeling like when you're going to the supermarket and you're like, I don't trust anyone. What if they've got it? What if I've breathed it in? Like, who
anyone
wiped
sneezes
down?
and you're like, oh my god, they've got it.
And then people started acting like idiots with buying the toilet paper and the flour and the sugar and everything, and it just kind of became a bit silly. But being an introvert, like, lockdown for me is fine. Like, it wasn't a big inconvenience on my social life because I didn't really go out. Like, I could still see my friends at the dog park because we could just stand a couple of meters apart. It wasn't like I was going to events and clubs and pubs and everything.
I'm much the same. You know what? It has been wonderful living in one time zone. For the last 2 years, I've been living in East-West Coast back and forth, and it takes a toll. So, you know, while I think it's been devastating for a lot of the world, you know, there have been some positives that have come out of it for, you know, in not just for me personally in this circumstance, but there's been other things like, you know, people working from home and things like that. So that's it's been interesting seeing those positive side effects in what has been a terrible time.
Yeah, I think we should probably preface this with, like, WA has been probably the luckiest part of the world, I think,
Yeah.
in terms of no community transmission at all, I don't think. We've got a wide state to explore. Like, we've not had super duper strict lockdowns. Yeah, we've seemed to handle it quite well, and compared to other parts of the world, I think we're very, very lucky.
Yeah, very much so. You know, if you look at America,
Yeah.
you know, the US situation is really, you know, it's very sad what's happened over there.
Even, like, our friends in Victoria, like, there's the Australian New Zealand hiking group, and I didn't want to post anything there because there was probably a lot of Victorians looking at that and saying, well, I can't go 5 kilometres from my house.
Yeah.
I hate you for, you know, lording your adventures all over me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like just being mindful that not everyone's got it as good as we did.
And we, you know, I could see that especially during the second lockdown, my my workmates and I, we had, you know, twice a week we had a meeting, and you could just see just how deflated they were. So, you know, I didn't really talk about doing the Mandibidi for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, working from home has been interesting. Like, I already did work from home 1 or 2 days a week anyway, so transitioning to being at home all the time was just fantastic for me, because I don't see the point in going to the office most of the time. You're just there because it's the social norm.
Yeah.
And with technology the way, like, it is today, we've got Zoom, I use Microsoft Teams at work. Like, you can have everyone up on the screen, you can see them. And, like, most of the time, it was no different. Like, if you wanted to have someone on the Teams, even when it wasn't video, you just have them there talking.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I just think it was lucky that it happened now and not 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, when the technology just didn't exist.
Yeah, it would have been hard.
You know, for me, I think it's been one of the positives of it is that, you know, obviously I've been sleeping better this year than I have for the last 2 years. But also, I think, you know, I was working 50% of my time at home, but now I've worked 9 months, 100% of my time at home and delivered. So that's been that's been an interesting thing, and I hope that as a result of this, there'll be more people moving to regional areas, or, like, for me, maybe not having to move to Melbourne, and, you know, show that you can work in Perth and, you know, the stuff gets done. So
I would move down to Albany in a heartbeat if I could, but I don't think I could convince Karis to do that. Not yet, at least.
No.
But yeah, I guess we should probably talk about the intrastate lockdown that was enforced for a few weeks.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe a month that it was enforced.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So that was kind of late March over past Easter, because I remember they defined Perth as Perth Peel.
Yep.
And you could actually go quite a long way. Like, I remember over Easter, Karis and I went down and we did Lake Clifton, which is south of Mandurah. I went out to Dwellingup a few times because that was on the border. It was just kind of like pushing the boundaries of where we could go, even though I think at that stage it was fairly clear that WA was fine with community transmission. But it was just that, it's when your freedom gets taken away, even though for it's a very valid reason, you want to go and do more stuff. Like, my family lives in Bunbury. I couldn't go see them for whatever it was, 4 or 6 weeks.
Yep.
It was just kind of, like a lot of adjusting of plans, because autumn in Perth probably isn't the best hiking, whereas down south is a lot better. Yeah,
for sure. And, you know, we recorded this year's, you know, the snorkeling in WA episode, and that, you know, when we recorded it, I was going, and by the time we released it, I didn't. And then over that time period, the thing that I just kept repeating to, you know, in our chat group was, I want to go hug a carry. Because, you know, like, I agree. Like, I think Perth is not that great for hiking in the autumn, but the down south is fantastic for it. So that sort of instigated my plans for cycling, because Alyssa and I, one of the weekends, we went up and did the Railway Heritage Trail, and I just felt, I really want to do more of this, and I wanted, there's this very long trail that gives me something new to do all the time.
Yeah.
And so on April 25th, we actually went up to the hills, and I started at Mundaring, and we basically designed it so that I would have something to do for like a month before having to worry about running out of things to do.
Yeah.
And the hope was, maybe it will open by then and we'll get around. So, that was, I think, a massive saving grace for me, was this, cycle trail. I didn't tell anyone I started it because I didn't know whether it was really going to become a thing or not.
Yeah, it was a big shock when you mentioned it in the group chat that we've got.
Yeah.
It's like, because you mentioned you were going on a cycling trip just for the day, and we're like, oh yeah, he's doing something different. And then you're like, well, I'm actually a few days into the Munda Biddi now.
Yeah. Because I'd seen bits of it before on the Bibbulmun, and it looked uninviting to me. Some of the cycling uphill and things like that. But after I did the first few days, I was like, this is awesome. I want to do more of it. Like, literally the first day on the 25th, because it was a long weekend, I said to Alyssa, can you drop me back off here on Monday and can I do another section? Because it was just so fun.
Yeah.
And it kind of was, it felt to me like how I felt about the Bibbulmun track when I first started walking it. So that was a really nice thing to have. As an unexpected gift of 2020 was this project that I got to do.
Yeah. So we joked before we started, because I've got a spreadsheet of everything I did for the year, and you were just like, I've got one.
Yeah, basically.
So around like the Easter bits, I mentioned I'd done Lake Clifton, and then I started looking at the Shire of Kalamunda walks just to try and do stuff within Perth, because I got kind of really down that there's not a lot of options in autumn to do, and there's really not a lot of options where they set the border, because it was east of the hills was shut off.
Yeah.
So I couldn't go and do like Sullivan Rock or Boonering Hill or anything like that on the
It was
bib.
this weird thing where, like, just at the Sullivan Rock car park,
Yeah.
it crossed over. It was like, ha, you guys can't have that.
Yeah. So that was a bit depressing, and I kind of like, I needed to do, well, I didn't need to do it. I wanted to do them for the website anyway, but it was kind of like, these trails aren't fantastic at the moment. The West Terrace walk for me kind of hit home that it's just a trail on four-wheel drive tracks that are eroded. It was all dry. There were ants about, so the dogs were getting bitten, and Karis was like sliding down on her butt on the slippery bits. I was like, it's all right, but it's not what I want to be doing right now. But then your favourite, the Channel 10 Tower Walk, and I actually enjoyed that despite all the dumped rubbish, because that was over Easter and it started to sprinkle as I was doing it, and there were some late season wildflowers. Yeah, it's not as bad as what you built it up to be.
Maybe if I hadn't built it up, you might have.
Yeah, well, I
hated it
I
more.
went in with a more positive attitude. Then I'm going to enjoy this, and like I probably would have enjoyed it anyway. It was pretty cool, and same with the Helena Pipehead Walk. Like that was a lot prettier than Channel 10, but still fairly dry, and like there's just the back of my head that these are just four-wheel drive tracks that they've cobbled together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what can you do? I made the most of it, and it's content for the website and new experiences and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so I did another Freo walk. I did Monument Hill, which is where I used to live when Karis and I first moved in together. And then a couple of other trips on the bib. So I originally wanted to go out to Dwelling Up because I thought I could do the King Jarrah, but they'd fenced off Nanga Mill.
Oh, yeah, I remember you went down.
Because I went all the way into the Chuditch campsite.
Yeah.
Or Chuditch campsite. And I was like, oh, cool, I'll be able to do it. They just closed down the campsite, so you just couldn't stay there. And then I reached a fence. I was like, I've driven all this way. So I ended up just going back to the centre of Dwelling Up and doing an out and back on the bib, which was really fun, actually, because it's really nice forest. And that's probably where I needed to be in autumn, is proper forest, not suburban forest. And then I went to visit the new Helena campsite, which I'd never been to, and that was another bad thing of COVID, is you're out there and all I could hear was dirt bikes the whole time.
Yeah.
because they couldn't go to wherever they go, probably Bali. And they were just out ripping up the forests. And like I rang the Water Corp because they patrol the area. I was like, do you want to put some extra patrols out? Because they're out there and they're not being shy about it. And the lady was like, yeah, we've had a big problem since COVID started of dirt bikers being where they shouldn't. But yeah, I got really angry that day because people were staying at the campsite and it was when they're all closed.
Yeah.
And just I bumped into a guy. I was like, you're not supposed to be here. And he gave like and I was like, ah.
Yeah.
And then as I was going back, I was passing people with big backpacks on. And it's like, you idiots. The risk was probably very, very minimal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's those kind of people that would spoil it had there actually have been community transmission.
They're like the people who you see in America protesting, my freedom!
Yeah.
You're taking my freedom! And, they stuff it up for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So autumn, how much of the Mundabiddi did you get in during... You got through all of it during the intrastate closes,
Yes,
didn't
so
you?
I basically got through everything up until... So when they announced that the borders were reopening, I had completed pretty much everything up until just after dwelling up, except that they had done a prescribed burn near North Dandalup Dam. So because of that, I had to go back and do that later. But as soon as it was open, I went and hugged the carry. We went and I did a section of the Mundabiddi that goes past Mount Lindsay, or the turn off to Mount Lindsay, and then it goes up to the last campsite of the Mundabiddi, and I hugged the carry. So, yeah.
I remember that because you put through the photo, and I was like, oh, good, Don just hugged the carry. He's happy.
Yeah. Because, I think that's my favourite forest type. Well, maybe after Gondwanan Forest in Australia, Karri Forest is my favourite. So being able to get back there, hug a carry, stay at that awesome campsite as well. The fact that campsite, we had it to ourselves is crazy. They had restrictions on how many people could stay, but it didn't really matter because we were the only people there.
Yeah, because you kind of find that a lot along the Mundabiddi is you had the campsite to yourself pretty much every night, apart from a couple, was it?
Every single one.
Every single one?
Every single one, except for the one that you stayed at with us.
Yeah, I spoiled it for you.
Basically, never had other people at the campsite.
Yeah. It's just weird because they're really, really, really good campsites.
Oh, yeah. And like Janung Bejabat, which is the one I'm talking about, is outstanding. It's probably one of the best I've, on the Bibbulmun or Mundabiddi. Crazy that it's not used by people, the cyclists. There's not as many people cycling it. Mind you, I think that people in October is when everyone goes, because there was quite an influx of people saying, oh, I'm leaving in October.
Yeah.
Whereas in autumn and winter, not a lot of people.
Yeah. I think autumn, fair enough, because especially the northern sections, if you ever go mountain biking
the
around
pea gravel
Perth,
is terrible.
pea gravel is terrible, yeah. So you need the rains to kind of dampen things down a bit. So May for me was the Murray campsite on the Bibbulmun track. So over summer it got really, really bad again. And I thought I'd defeated it, but it's just there to spite me at the moment, I think. So I got my hands on a brush cutter. So there was a team of us went out with a few brush cutters, and we tackled that whole section. So not just mine, but the one further south as well, to really clear it up and provide a proper passage through. And I think we did a pretty good job, although now it's starting to come back with the soap bush as well. And then I went back on my own with another brush cutter to clear the four-wheel drive track leading up from the river. That was terribly overgrown. So the Murray campsite got a good rejuvenation, or that section got a rejuvenation over the May period. So that was good fun. Went out with Lou, our friend. She joined us for one of the overnight trips. And then, yeah, it's just getting through late autumn, which was really, really dry in Perth. I just remember there's been no rain. And then when it did rain, I think I organised a trip out to FR Berry Reserve.
Yep.
And that was fun because it was like a little rapids waterfall type thing.
Yeah,
But I
it's,
still
it's a nice walk.
Yeah, I still remember being like fairly dry.
Mm.
And we also did one hike, which if you've researched the area there, you'll know about it, but you're not supposed to enter without the key. I figured I could just jump the fence, which is what we did, but I won't write it up because now that I know that it's a Class A reserve, I don't want to encourage people jumping the fence, but
Yep.
yeah, you need to pick up the key in business hours and go out to Midland to get it. So I was like,
Yeah, it's frustrating that they make it so difficult to get to that hike.
yeah, and it's a really pretty area, but you could see the dieback. I was like, I don't want people coming in here if they're not going to spray their shoes and brush down and everything, which I know not everyone does.
Yeah.
So winter, this was when the borders opened and you could go wherever you wanted on the Mundabiddi. Where did you choose?
The aim here was to try and finish the Mundabiddi so that I finished in Albany, because when I finished the Bibbulmun, I finished it randomly in Bailingup, and it was so anticlimactic. So we did a lot of trips to Collie, through the middle, basically, trying to work our way down to there. So the winter was, first of all, getting myself fit enough to cycle, because I, different muscles to hiking.
Yeah.
And, we did a lot of trips in Collie. So the last episode we talked about that Collie section, which I think is, has a crappy day in there, but it has some really nice days as well.
Yeah.
Working through, and then we did the week where you came down as well for a section, so between Pemberton and Walpole. So that's the only section where I've done it basically every day. I cycled sequentially the whole way through and did it as if it was for real.
Yep.
We camped along the way, so that was really nice. It was in July, I had leave booked that was meant to be for Thorsby Trail. I took that week and did this cycling trip and really was happy with it. The only thing was I was meant to go through William Bay.
Yeah.
And it still wasn't finished because I think because of COVID, they didn't get as much work done to begin with. And then the rains hit, so the roads were difficult to make. And I think they also had some vandalism as well, where people were like, screw you guys, I'm just going to drive in anyway and just ruin the road. So...
they picked a good time to do it, but it's just, as you said, circumstance delayed that.
Yeah.
You're never going to get like a government project on time and on budget. So.
No, that never happens.
Yeah.
So you obviously joined us for a bit of cycling. We did the first section of the Mundabiddi again, because I wanted to see the new realignment, and you came down for the Pemberton to Northcliffe day.
Yeah.
What else did you get up to over winter?
So winter started with the long weekend. I went out and did the Clackline and Bobakine walk GPS walks.
Oh, yeah.
So I was looking forward to doing them, and they turned out to be fantastic. Like, as advertised, really diverse hiking through some really quality areas. And then some more maintenance and a field day, and then one thing that I'd planned over the years was I wanted to go to Shannon National Park and do the Rocks Walk. So I think I talked about this in 2019 review pod, is I wanted to do Shannon National Park. So I thought, why not? I'll take my niece out, who I'm trying to get into hiking. I think she quite enjoys it. Had it planned, and then she went and rolled her ankle the Friday before.
Yep.
So we delayed that a week, and then we finally got out there, and that was a fun day. Like, it's only, I think it's a 3.5K walk maybe, but we spent a couple of hours like looking for all the fungi. I bought her like all the little field guide books, and so like introducing her to nature and seeing it through her eyes, and like trying to be a cool uncle, and like, oh, this is what this is called, and look at this tree, and it was good fun. And then obviously joined you for the first section to do the new realignment. That was kind of like a test to see if I could still cycle again.
Yep.
And then like a lot of like the working from home in winter was great, because during my lunch break I was cycling from my place to North Mole and back, trying to get some fitness up to do Pemberton to Northcliffe, which I really enjoyed. I like that section quite a bit. It's a lot different riding than it is walking. I think you miss out on a lot of the detail and like the closeness sometimes, because even when you are on those rail forms that are quite closed in, you're rushing by and it's kind of over in an instant. But it's still really enjoyable because you get that kind of touring feeling on
Yeah.
the roads where you're kind of going different places, and it was fun to like patch up where we were in relation to the bib and like, oh, I know the Munda Biddy joins up here and we get to go through here, and
Yeah.
that was fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was probably one of my better days of 2020 on the trails.
That day though is, I think, one of the best days of the entire trail. Like, I think when you do the whole thing in 2021,
Yeah.
you'll probably see that was you had a really good day.
Unless it's like pouring with rain or like super duper hot that day.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, and then this was kind of when I started in July doing like hikes I'd already done just for fun, because I didn't really plan 2020 that well pre-COVID. I didn't have too much to do other than the Cape to Cape and a couple of other trips. So end up doing Mount Cook again, and I did the actual double loop, which I'd wanted to do as part of like the 6 summit walk I've got to do a 7 summit. So you go up and over Mount Cook and then double back on the 4-wheel drive track to the parking bit where you've got your Mount Cook ride up starting from.
Yep.
And then go up and then back. So I did that starting at Sullivan Rock, and that was really, really fun. Lots of fungi around and lots of water as well, because we had a quite wet start to that winter.
Yep.
And then Victoria Reservoir, I redid that one because the photos were terrible, and that was a really nice day. And then I tacked on Bickley Reservoir as well, just because I was in the area. And
The old Mason and Bird.
Yeah, that bridge and that hike up the hill. It's actually a really fun area.
Yeah, I like that. You know, we joke that it's the baby's graves walk, but
Well, that was funny because that's the first time I actually sought out the baby's grave.
oh yeah,
Like, I kind of knew roughly where it was, but I didn't go and investigate. I was like, Don, the baby's grave. But it was good to see like lots of people out.
yeah,
Even though it's not like one of the best trails, it's accessible because
yeah,
it's close to the hills and some of the cideries out there.
yeah. I mean, I like that walk because it's pretty varied. Like, you don't get bored of it. Like, for one of those sort of Shire of Kalamunda walks that it feels kind of like, oh, they just put some signs up on a vehicle track.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice one.
Yeah, because you get the dam, you get the really nice forest above the dam, and then like the bit leading between the 2 reservoirs isn't fantastic because it's like wide trail, but then the Mason and Bird up the hill, that's really fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that one, and then Bickley Reservoir, and then back to Mokine Nature Reserve for the 3rd of the Walk GPS walks I was meant to do, and this was the first hike that I did with my new camera that I bought, my short-lived new camera, and then top that off with a trip to York and the Mount Brown Trail, which was pretty, but I think I got it in like premium conditions with the farmland all green, but the trail wasn't terribly well designed or well maintained. So before we continue, we'll get onto our tasting notes for our sponsor, Green Door Winery.
Yeah, so we decided today we've gone with the Green Door El Toro 2019 Tempranillo. So Tempranillo is a Spanish varietal, becoming sort of more popular because I think the French varietals in Australia for a long time held court. But it's a popular one. You know, very often it's said to go very well with tapas or pizza. That's the kind of things. Very, very food friendly wine.
Yeah, it's a very drinkable red. Very kind of deep color, deep purple red.
Yeah.
Some fruity notes to it.
And I think, you know, the Geograph region, which for people who don't know, that's between Perth and Margaret River. It's a bit of an underrated area. A lot of people sort of bypass it on the way down to Margaret River, but they make some really good wines. And this particular area in the Ferguson Valley has some really good wineries, and I think it's up and coming. I think a lot of people for a long time have passed it by, but I think that there's actually a lot of value here, especially if you're going to go to Gnomesville.
Yeah, I was about to say the popularity of Gnomesville has really like shone a light on this area. But yeah, we were here for lunch with my family a few years ago, and it's just a spectacular area. Like, you think rolling hills, like Shire-esque, Hobbity type landscapes. That's what the Ferguson Valley is.
Yeah.
And there's some really, really good wineries there.
And I particularly enjoyed cycling through this area as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this particular wine, what do you think? Like, what do you taste when you...
Getting some cherry, lots of orange in that. Yeah, just kind of, it's like a really nice complex red.
Like I feel, it's not so heavy. It's not like Cabernet heavy, but it's not like a Pinot Noir in terms of light body. It's like a good medium to high, medium to full body.
Yeah, like it's a good kind of, I don't know, kind of autumny spring kind of red, where you're not in the middle of winter where you want like a good heavy red, and it's not like a red that you would drink in the middle of summer either.
Yeah,
it's a good balance.
I can see, they say that this is sort of goes well with some chorizo and some cheese, and
yeah,
I kind of wish I had a cheese platter here.
Yeah,
because it's very nice.
I can also imagine myself, at the end of a day on the Camino in a town. It's 9 o'clock. Everyone, like, the town's buzzing. Everyone will postcode. The town's buzzing. Just having a good time, having a wine. I think this is the perfect one for it.
Yeah, very nice. So, we've got a few more to go through, but definitely can recommend the Green Door El Toro 2019 Tempranillo. And as I mentioned at the start of the episode, for Real Talk listeners, if you do your first order through their website, you can use the code PRELTALK, all one word, and that will give you a 10% discount for your first order.
Yeah. All right, back to the episode. So August has hit. It's the late winter period in Perth where it's either really rainy or it's the perfect summer or like winter summer kind of sunshine in the day, not too warm, not too windy.
If that was summer, Mark, I would be so happy.
We've had some discussion about this, but you enjoy this time of year when it's not too hot, yet the sun's still out.
For me, I'll put it this way. I despise Perth from mid-December through to about March, where I go, why am I living here? But I have to remember that one of the reasons I like living here is that I think that from, through winter, but particularly August through to October, is just outstanding. I think Western Australia is at its peak in that period.
I always refer to August as like the lost month, because it's that time where like the excitement of winters here is over, and you can just kind of like bury yourself in rainy weekends or like cold weekends, and it's just kind of a time to enjoy the forest because like the fungi are out, the wildflowers have started to appear. It's that kind of turning of the tide coming into spring.
Yeah, the last of the truffles are
yes.
there. So yeah, I mean August for me was that was sort of, I always think of July and August like you've got to go and get the truffles because that's like the best of the time. Yeah, so I remember like I went down with my family, so Alyssa's parents and my parents, we booked a place at Donnelly River Village, and the whole thing was that you have to book a house for like that sleeps 6 people.
Yeah.
And we went, well, we've booked it anyway, we should just invite them and see if they wanted to do it. So we get along well with our parents and they get along really well with each other.
Yeah.
So we did that while I did some cycling, and we went to in Manjimup. We had some truffles. Awesome time.
I would actually pay money to watch John and Alan interact.
Because you've not seen them together, have you?
I've seen them apart, and like I kind of get a grasp on their personalities. It'd be fun to see them together. We
enjoyed it so much that that next year we're actually going to go to Carry Valley as a family and hang out.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So which section of the Munda Biddi were you focusing on during August?
So this was basically, so we had done in the period that I'd cycled with you in July was up until Walpole, but then we did a bit of a flip-flop and went back to trying to link things up from Collie all the way through to Manjimup.
Yep.
And then on to Manjimup to Pemberton. So you joined me for a bit of that, and you did a fairly boring day, but then an awesome day.
It wasn't too bad, actually. I enjoyed the variety.
The first day I didn't love.
it dragged on a little bit towards the end of the day,
Yeah.
but I like the going between the forests and the farmland, and
Yeah.
then back into the forest and like the various dams and whatnot that we saw.
But I knew that the other day was going to be great,
Yes.
and it was great.
It was great.
Yeah.
And I was just thankful my legs recovered from the previous day.
But I mean, we're lucky because it's mostly downhill and flat all the way to Nanup.
Yeah. So we're talking about Donnybrook to Nanup, staying at Nalamia
Yeah.
campsite, which we
Yeah.
timed that actually very well because it started to rain as we came into camp.
Yep.
And then Alyssa joined us, and we got all set up, and it was actually quite a nice night.
Oh yeah, it was a lovely. I mean, it's a weird campsite because it's not like in the bush somewhere.
It was not what I was expecting at all.
I kind of knew what it was because I remember thinking, really, it's the middle of like a village, and it really is in the middle of a village, and it's not like Donnelly River where the village is,
Yeah,
people who don't live there anymore.
and it was full of trees. Whereas Jarrawood, it was just like a cleared area with just like houses and caravans and just like weird settlement type stuff.
Yeah.
And then the shelter's just on this like the side of this hill
Yep.
in like this weedy grass area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little bit shocked, but I was just happy to be there at night
Yeah.
under cover during the rain.
And the Mundabiddi huts are great. Only thing is, it's a bit of a wind tunnel, that one.
Yes. So I was right up against the edge of the the shelter there in my tent.
Yeah. I remember we played cards and it was a bit windy. We had to like play in the corner.
Yeah, because I had little tea lights so we could see, and it was that was a fun night.
Yeah, it was good. And Nanup is great. I was really impressed with Nanup. Both times because I did that trip with you, and then also I did the next section to Donnelly River as well. And it's a lovely town. Like, I'd not really stayed there or visited it other than just driving through, and really liked it.
Yeah, so 2020 for me was Nanup as well. Like, I'd visited a fair few times, and again, I'd only pass through just driving to, say, Pemberton, because it's the route I take from Bunbury. But we timed it really well because it was the Tulip Festival on that weekend. There were markets about, the town was buzzing,
Vintage cars.
Very
Very
doggos.
nice.
Yeah, that was a fun way to arrive into town because it was a very short day on the Mundabiddi.
Yep.
Mostly downhill and through excellent scenery. And the tea shop there is amazing.
Oh, yeah. I've been drinking the teas because now it's been hot. I've been making iced tea with it. So good.
Yeah, I've actually run out, so I've got maybe like 2 cups worth of Russian Caravan to drink, but the smoky Earl Grey was amazing. I actually bought Mum a gift voucher there because she buys her tea there.
Awesome.
Yeah, really nice lady that runs that.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, buy tea in Nanup. It's really, really good. For me during August, again, another trail I'd been meaning to redo is the King Jarrah. I didn't get to do it in April when I went out to visit before, so I was actually glad I did it this time because I had the new camera, perfect day, nice and rainy and a little bit sunny in the afternoon. And then Karis and I took a trip down to Margaret River the week before we did our cycling trip, and it was horrible weather. I think it was that weekend where lots and lots of rain was forecast, and it was just like moody and dark the whole weekend. We ended up doing Corgardup Cave in the dry, thankfully. That was a fun experience. And then didn't plan on doing any hiking, but we had plenty of time on the Monday that we were meant to leave, and I was like, I saw the walk trail sign as you're going out of town. I was like, let's stop in there for a little bit. And we did the Chimney Trail, which kind of goes through the middle of I think it's Woodjadup National Park. It used to be Bramley National Park, and it's through all the mountain bike trails, so they've just got like a little walk trail there, and that was good fun through the Karri Forest. And then joined you to do Donnybrook to Nanup. That was good fun. And then the next weekend, Kitty's Gorge and Baldwin Bluff. So I'd not visited that in like 4 years, I think. So I wanted to do that, and that was just as good as I remembered, except I'm now more acutely aware of what's native and what isn't. And Gurulong Brook is just horribly infested with blackberries and arum lilies, and it's kind of sad to see now that I know that like how invasive they are.
Yeah.
I just wish more work was done in Serpentine National Park to actually rehabilitate the area rather than just have the rangers patrolling Serpentine Falls.
Yeah. And of course those cotton plants that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why that cottage has just been left there and the land around it not planted with natives. Like, there's no reason why to leave it bare.
Yeah.
But anyway. And I missed my first echidna sighting on Baldwin's Park.
Of course.
Yeah, so it was a beautiful sunny day, and like I could see all the scratchings where they were, where they'd obviously been around the ants' nest. And I bumped into someone who I'd like interacted with online quite a bit, Mike Farquhar from the Red Tail Bushwalking Club, and he recognised my shirt and my face, and we had a bit of a chat. And I was like, "Oh, I really want to see an echidna." He's like, "Oh, it's probably a bit early in the day." And I went to the summit, didn't see anything, and I was photographing some orchids and some sundews. And then on the way back, I bumped into a family, and the kid was like, "Oh, on the left back there's an echidna. You just missed it by a minute." And I was like, "Thanks, kid." Really appreciate that. So that was kind of a bummer, but it'll happen when it happens.
No.
No.
You'll be like 60 and you'll be like, yes!
Yes, an echidna. I actually just recently went to the zoo and that's like took a picture of them all in their little burrow. And I was like, I finally found one. And then you guys were like, what? Like, at the zoo. Doesn't count.
Yeah.
And then one thing that I didn't know, and then one thing that I'd never done, which I probably should have been a local Freo resident, is check out Wireless Hill, which is in Ardros. And Steve from the Billman Track Foundation, when he found out I hadn't been to Wireless Hill, was like, you have to go. And the orchids there are just fantastic. Like, it's a very short little loop, but all you're doing is just scanning the bush for these orchids, which I actually find amazing that they actually grow there and they actually survived urbanization, because all around is just like McMansions and Garden City.
Yeah, that's right. It's like just literally, if you at the back of Garden City, the road at the end goes to Wireless Hill.
Yeah.
So, and I used to live in Alfred Cove around there, and it's completely suburbia except for Wireless Hill.
It's just odd, and that's probably why I didn't visit before, because I didn't expect much out of it. But as soon as Steve mentioned the orchids, I was like, I have to go now, and I found quite a few. That was a fun trip.
Awesome.
September, so the start of spring. This is when cycling becomes really fun because the sun's out. It's not as rainy, although we had a rainy September.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind getting rained on. You know, I'm not worried about that. So, yeah, did a lot of cycling. So this whole season was basically me trying to. So I started writing the blog, and so they all sort of came out at the end of August, and I started sort of every week. And I know that I've I've let the last two sort of fall by. I've just been too busy, and also the last one's going to be an epic because it's going to be twice as long as every other post, because I did all of a section, like a town to town section in one go. So I did a lot of cycling. You know, I'd finish a bit and be like, oh yes, so now everything from here to here is done. And I think it got to the point where I had everything from up to Manjimup done, and then I did Manjimup to Pemberton, and it's like everything to Walpole's done. And we did a trip where I finished the little bits from Walpole to Denmark, except for
William
Bay.
Yep.
So that's basically my time there. You know, as I said, just doing the one trail, but filling all the gaps.
Because you were quite bummed out when like you just get the updates on William Bay and it's like it's delayed, and you really wanted to get it on your way through.
That's right, because my aim was I was going to go down, I was going to do that little section, finish at I was going to finish at the end at Light Speech, and then next day Denmark to Albany, and it just wasn't to be. You know, like it was just really having to link everything up, and ended up that William Bay was done afterwards. So
yeah. But you've now visited, and you can continue posting the rest of your Munda Biddy series.
Yeah, so what happened was I got through August and September writing it up, and I was going to finish it literally, like, it was going to just come out. Then I got busy, and I thought, well, you know what? I've waited so long, I might as well get that last bit through there. So, yeah.
I think good decision.
Yeah. And you, of course, had an epic time because your big trip.
This was probably the only thing I really planned on doing for the year. And, I mean, we've already recorded a podcast about it, so I won't rattle on too much. But it was basically Cape to Cape, some stuff in the southwest, Walpole, Albany, Esperance, and home, and then back to do the Pemby Trail Fest. So that was over 3.5 weeks, a lot of trails, and I'm still getting through it. Like, it's Christmas time now, and I'm on day 2 of my post Cape to Cape trip. I haven't even I've got 2 trails to write up for the day 2, and some photos to edit, and then I've still got a ton more trails to do. So this will keep me busy over the summer, but that was a really fun trip. Probably maybe put too much into that trip. I maybe should have separated it out into a southwest and then an Esperance leg.
Yep.
But it's hard with Esperance being so far away.
Yeah. It's just that bit too far.
And there's nothing there's stuff in between, but not enough to stop and stay and explore. Although there is a bit around Hyden I'd like to visit, with all the rocks there that you can walk around. But I'll get there eventually, because I have unfinished business thanks to my camera getting waterlogged and then breaking. So I've still got to do Le Grand, Coastal Trail, and Peak Charles, which maybe I'll tick off in 2021. Maybe I'll leave that for another year. We'll see.
Yep.
So this was also the time when you finished the Munda Biddy.
Yeah, because you, as part of your trip, you were there.
Yep.
Not quite when I got in, but you were there for a celebratory drink in Albany.
It was still daylight when I was there, and you were there, and
yep.
Yeah, that was a fun way to kind of arrive in Albany and share that experience with you.
Yeah, so I finished that day, and that day from Denmark to Albany was long. It was 70-something Ks. But outstanding, except that I was swooped repeatedly by magpies between Ellicott. From there to Albany isn't great. There's a section along Lower Denmark Road, which we'll talk about when we get to it. But anyway, otherwise it was an awesome day. Really enjoyed it, and it was just nice. I felt I'm really glad that I finished in Albany and not just randomly somewhere.
Yeah, I think even if you're doing one of these long distance trails sectionally, I think it's good to finish at the finish.
Yep.
Because it's that you go through the same experience of, you reflect on everything you've done up until that point. You're probably at your fittest or your strongest.
Yep.
And then you've got the trailhead to actually that's a significant milestone to see.
Yeah, and I think particularly with the Munda Biddy, because Denmark to Albany, there's not really anywhere to stay unless you stay off the track. There's no huts between there. It just feels like you should do it in one go, and you're probably at your fittest then, as you say, so you can go and do 75 Ks and it ain't no thing.
Although if you're doing south to north, that's going to be a bitch of a first day.
And I think you shouldn't do it south to north,
Although, trying to think, because south to north, you'd get the westerlies in the afternoon, wouldn't you, for that first section?
And also, I think with hiking, you can put up with more vertical ascent.
Yeah.
Whereas with cycling, that obviously you start at sea level in Albany and you finish.
It's 300 meters over 1,000 kilometers.
But also, I think the worst descent, which is up through Collie, is uphill that direction, that whereas it's downhill and it's switchbacks for everything else.
And also, Nannup to Nullamere would be all uphill.
Yeah.
That section from Northcliffe, halfway to Pemberton, would all be uphill.
Yeah, so I really think it is a better trail to do north to south. Yep.
Noted.
Yep.
So yeah, post big road trip for me. Not much happened at all because obviously I've got a lot of photos to edit and posts to write. And finally in November went out to the Kingdom of Pi for the first time for the year. So this is my first maintenance section between Possum Springs and Yortamong. And the reason I only visited in November is because DBCA let a prescribed burn get out of hand. Well, they lit it in really bad conditions, and then a month later it really flared up. So if you remember to late last year when all the Yanchep fires were going on, there was an even bigger fire north of Collie, and that was it. It was prescribed burns that then flared up again.
But it never happens, Mark. They never let it flare up.
No, especially around Collie, they're sensational at that.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a feeling based on photos that I'd seen throughout the year that area had been completely burnt. So I was kind of dreading going out there, and like there's not much to maintain when it's burnt anyway. So I was a little heartbroken when I arrived, and yes, the four-wheel drive section is very, very badly burnt, and it's back to green jumpers and stick-thin black trunks and whatnot. But post the little swampy area, you can see where they've bulldozed in to try and stop the fire there, and they stopped it there, thankfully. So post that section going north is fine, and that's the best section. That's the section I really love, and I would have been like even more heartbroken had that have been burnt. And I saw my first spider orchid out there, so that was fun. There was a Christmas spider orchid, which only flowers September to December, which is odd for a spider orchid because they're usually done by kind of early November or kind of late October, sorry. And then we did the Kept Track.
Yeah, which was fun.
Very, very, very rainy. That was an odd November day.
It was great because I was dreading a hot day cycling in November. Like I said to you, if it's too hot, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And it was like perfect autumn, like or winter or spring weather.
Kind of, spring, because like the showers would roll in and then you get kind of like fine weather that was a little bit sunny and it had a bite to it, but it wasn't too hot.
Yeah. It felt like a good September day. The only telltale sign was how brown everything looked.
Yeah, so like the farming areas that are harvested and then all the grass grows on the fringes. Yeah, that was looking yellowish, but it had a nice like glow to it in the sunshine. Yeah, that was a nice day. I enjoyed that day. Yeah, as you'll hear about on the previous 2 episodes back now. Yeah, and then to finish the year. Just recently I did another trip out to Murray to see what that's looking like after not visiting for a few months, and not too bad. Not too bad. So I've sort of finished out the year with thanks to Mark McGowan and his vouchers for tourism travel. Alyssa got one and I got one. So we did a trip out to Jurien Bay and we swam with the sea lions, which we've done before. But it was good because it's a nice sort of precursor to what we're doing next year. Also, for the Ningaloo trip in April, I bought this waterproof camera case, and it's annoyed me all year because there's this like several $100s of case just sitting on my table. Yeah, I'm like, God damn it! Finally got to use it. And then just last week, from when we recorded, we went down to Pemberton and did the tour with Pemberton Discovery Tours. Yep. So we went from Pemberton and they drive and take you to where the Warren River empties out into the ocean. Through the dunes there? Yeah, so it goes through the dunes. Outstanding. Like I've often wanted to go to D'Entrecasteaux and go through the Jagerup dunes, but I've never thought that I could get my X-Trail through it. So it was really good to go with the tour. Graham, who was the tour guide, was really excellent. He had a lot of information. The scenery was outstanding. It's very different to what you expect from Western Australia. And having done, so much cycling along the Warren River, walked the Warren River Loop, it was cool to see it empty out into the ocean. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's the thing with, like, the rivers of WA is, like, the river mouths are quite hidden most of the time. Yeah. It's like the Gardner River, the Warren River, Donnelly River. Like, you don't get to see where they empty out into the ocean, because usually there's a town at a river mouth, but
Yep.
not in WA on the south coast. So it's kind of weird, but it is like, because it's dune area, which a lot of people I don't think realize, like it goes forest and then dune quite suddenly,
Yes.
and it's very spectacular.
Yeah. Like Alyssa took a photo, and I took a few photos as well of like you're standing on this huge dune, and there's a lake behind, and that lake probably in the next 100 years will be swallowed up by the dunes. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to think that, you know, this dune that basically came about because the ocean levels dropped at a particular time. All the sand dried up and blew inland.
Yeah.
And then the water level rose again, and that dune's just slowly moving and engulfing everything. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think if you're in the area and you want something different to do, definitely do one of those tours.
Yeah, definitely. I really recommend it.
So 2020, we survived
We did
quite well, actually.
Quite
I
well.
think.
You know, like
Yeah.
I'd say this was it wasn't the year that I wanted, but it was the year that I enjoyed. In terms of the trails that I did.
I think probably you were more susceptible to getting a bit more down about hiking in WA. So I'm happy that you, during this period, have found mountain biking as your savior.
Yeah, you know, because I think I if I had just stuck to hiking, having done the Bibbulmun, Cape to Cape, all the major ones, I would have been pretty down. I probably would have joined you, I think, for the Cape to Cape.
That would have been fun. I did extend the invitation to you.
Yeah, just didn't have to leave, but
Yeah.
I probably would have had I not, because I would have just been so like, I just need to do something.
Yeah, it would have been a lot. Can you just get out of my shot, please? Yeah. So we'll continue on the tradition that we have for the last of these pods, where we have a few kind of like set questions, and then I put the call out to social media, and thank you for everyone for responding. We'll get through most of the questions that came in. So I think we'll start with favourite trail for the year, which is going to be quite easy for you, but maybe
the Mundabiddi.
Maybe favourite day on the Mundabiddi for you then.
Okay, so favorite days, I reckon the day into Collie was one of my favorite days. The day into Nannup that you did with me was really good. The day from Pemberton was a really good day, so you lucked out with two of my favorite days. I reckon that the section leading, I think the last day was really good as well. I really enjoyed that. And disjointed as it is, I think the last day, the day into Denmark, is quite a varied day. Even though there's some road riding on Scottsdale Road, I think it's quite a varied day, so I find that quite interesting.
If you had to pick, though, one
day, gee. Probably would be somewhere in the Karri Forest, because that's my favourite, you know. Somewhere there. So, yeah, say maybe Pemberton to Northcliffe, or I really liked the day into Manjimup. There were some bits that were crap, but there was a nice bit, like there's that ridiculous switchback up to the hut that, you know, on the Bibbulmun track, I was like, sucks to be those guys. I think because I felt good doing it, and it was just different because it's like an arboretum that's got experimental plantings and stuff, and you go past the Donnelly River.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good day, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to really think about that, but I really loved it, because I think coming from the Bibbulmun, where I was disappointed when I finished it, I finished the Mundabiddi and thought I could easily do this again, and I would love to do it again.
Spring 2021, you can join me and Aaron.
I don't have that much leave, man. But you know, it's a trail that one day I will do again.
Yeah.
I don't think I would do the Bibbulmun again, partly because the boring days are really long, and I don't think I could put myself through that again. Whereas on a bike, I feel like, you know, I could do that day again going to Lake Brockman. So yeah.
Well, the invitation is there if you want to join for sections, if you don't have the leave.
Maybe for a weekend I'll come down.
Aaron and I would be more than happy to have you.
That would be fun.
For me, favourite trails, it's kind of difficult because there's not like one that stands out as being like wow. like there was, because a lot of my good trail experiences were compressed into that 3.5 week period. So there was just a lot of like, this is awesome, I love doing this. But yeah, the Rocks Walk I really enjoyed. The Cape to Cape's probably gonna get it. It's either day 2 or day 3. So yelling up to Moses Rock was just amazing, very varied, lots of wildflowers out. Kind of tarnished by running out of water and having that in the back of my mind. But day 3, I think probably favorite day of the year. Mainly because I extended it out to 30 Ks and I was hiking the whole day. There was lots to see. I got back into the forest around Ellensbrook. Had a beautiful finish to the day where I crossed the Margaret River and the storms were rolling in, and I had fish tacos and rum. So that's always a good trail day. Yeah. So the one that we started doing, I think it was last year or the year, it was probably the year before. So favorite hour on any trail during the year.
I reckon once I was away from the magpie swooping, and I was on that home stretch into Albany and just going through it in my head, I had the emotional rush of memories that I hoped I'd have on the Bibbulmun, and I had it, and it just was, especially when you come in to town and you see the hike that you did, the one up to where Park goes past the tip.
Oh, Mount Melville.
Mount Melville. Like, you see that and you go uphill and coming in and just thinking about the day and thinking like, I did 70-something Ks and it wasn't that hard. And thinking back to it all. Yeah, like even now I feel a bit emotional thinking about it. Like I really loved that trail and I loved finishing that trail. And also, I guess even, if I had to go back and say, just starting the Munda Biddi and that feeling of newness. Like I saw the Bibbulmun track sign near the Mundaring Weir Hotel, and I also got a bit teary because I rediscovered a sense of newness that I hadn't felt for a long trail in a long time. Yeah. That was me. How about you?
I'm going to go a bit left field on this one. I'll talk about the runner-up first. So it's probably, there was a section riding between Pemberton and Northcliffe with you where I think we were on a wide four-wheel drive track and there was nice carry forest around. And I think I got out my phone. I was just doing the guy who did the cranberry juice singing to Fleetwood Mac on his skateboard type thing where I'm just going around just being how wonderful is this?
Yeah.
It just opened my eyes to the long distance touring style of cycling where you've got a distance to cover in the day and that's all you have to do. You're just out riding with your mate through some nice forest. It was just a fun thing to do. But probably the best hour is Mount Burnett near Walpole.
Oh, really?
And it was not a trail I'd originally planned to do, and I only did it because I changed plans to do the Nate's Wilderness Walk, and I just had a full day around Walpole with nothing to do but hike. And I'd only seen it at the Tingle All Over as a spot on a map. I was like, I'll check that out. And it turned out to be really, really cool. You cross a creek over some boardwalk and there were flowers everywhere. Even the car park was just full of blue squills. And then around every corner there was just a new wildflower, and it was something that you don't often get in WA because there's often through the forests they've been burnt and they've been logged. There's a monotonous kind of, there's some of these and there's that, but it was lots of different varieties scattered everywhere, and then there was some new ones, and I found some spider orchids, and then the summit had some really cool views and more wildflowers, and it just felt I don't know, it was just at peace. I had nothing to do, no stress, no worries. It was just, I was there just enjoying hiking. And I just didn't want it to end. And I just felt that spot was my own. Because I figure no one really goes there because they don't know about it.
Yeah.
And it's not really well signposted. So it just felt like not many people visit. It was just kind of a hidden spot away where it was really, really nice.
Just as well you did it now as well, because they've just done a prescribed burn through there and they said all walks on Southwest Highway are closed.
Oh, God. Yeah. Apologies if you see my post and then you go and visit and it's Okay, we'll get into the questions that have come in. So first one is, how did you get started with hiking? I think we've probably covered this a fair few times, but I guess we'll go over it again for those that haven't listened to some of the other episodes.
Yeah, so for me, it was the first time we used to go down to Pemberton a lot, and I did a bit of the Bibbulmun on the other side of Carry Valley, and I said to myself, I'm going to do the Bibbulmun track one day. And there's a photo of me standing on the sign outside of the Gloucester Tree.
Not you, it's Little Donny.
It's little, yeah. So there's the photo of me standing outside there as Little Donny outside the Gloucester Tree. So that was my start. And then for levers, I did a Walpole to Denmark, and that was my start. And how about you?
I was thinking about this the other day, and like the bones of enjoying being out in nature and the bush probably go back to our family friends had a property out near a place called Poppeninning, kind of Brookton-ish area, Katanning area.
Yeah.
And we went out there quite a lot during the winters. There's just basically 2 paddocks and 2 bits of land, and they had a creek running through it, and it was just fun. Like, we used to go on walks, and we'd have golf clubs, and we'd, that tree's the pin, and get to it, and we'd have days where we would just like walk along the creek lines. We'd try and build dams. It was just fun being out in nature. But then actually getting into hiking, I never really enjoyed like doing scouts or anything like that, like the organized stuff. And it was me preparing to go to Costa Rica, so I wanted to get some fitness in. I thought, may as well. Went out to the Bibbulmun. This was a pretty fun thing to do. And then, started getting into it a bit more seriously during the winters when I had nothing to do.
Awesome.
Yeah. Next question. You probably know who this will come from. Now that you guys are supermodels, what's next for you guys in that space? So this comes from our friend Michelle. If you've seen the photos for Feed the Hike, we are now international supermodels, men of mystery.
Yep.
We did a photo shoot out near Jarrahdale on mountain bikes.
I'm glad that there's photographic evidence of my beardiness and my hair at the moment, because as soon as I go back to Melbourne, I'm going to cut my hair. This was like how long is this going to be? Nothing. There's nothing going to happen with this anymore.
So I think we actually did quite well on that photo shoot. There's some realistic shots of like us interacting at camp, pouring fake liquids into cups.
Yep.
I think we did all right.
Yep. I like that the mushroom soup was mostly sand, so that it stands up like.
But yeah, check out Feed the Hike if you're after some good quality dehydrated hiking meals. Michelle's done a great job. They're really compact, which I don't think the backcountry or campus kitchen ones do very well.
Yeah, the packaging is quite small, which is good.
Yeah, and very fresh ingredients, good flavors.
Yeah.
And if you want a discount, use the code PIE5 and you get a 5% discount. Okay, the next one. So someone gives you $10 million and free reign over land and planning. What trail would you create in WA?
Well, I've got a bee in my bonnet about why is there no multi-day trail up north?
Yeah.
And I would make it happen.
All right.
I would...
Where specifically, though?
Well, Karajini would be one potential place. The other one is, I cannot believe an area the size of Tasmania, the Kimberley, does not have a section of land that for 4 or 5 days has worthy scenery. Like, I just don't believe that that's possible, that is the case. I would make sure something happened either there or in Karajini.
All right. So mine would either be in 2 areas. So I'd either bully my way to get a long distance trail in Fitzgerald River National Park that goes from one side to the other with campsites. Yep. I think that would be world class. So the second one, I would create a multi-day trail around Walpole that kind of goes on the eastern side of Southwestern Highway, so around Mount Roe, Mount Franklin, and just explores the river around there. Because I think that's a beautiful spot that's just completely untapped.
Yep.
And I think you could probably get that feeling of you're completely isolated in the forest for days on end there.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Next question. Very similar one. Now you've taken up the mountain biking bug, where would you like to see more long distance trails?
Good question. I think I like where the strategy for mountain bike trails is going. I think that linking up the towns with all rail trails and things like that is great. I think it is so much better an idea than hiking trails, because it will just be boring linking up, say, a town to another town and walking it, because the scenery just won't be worth seeing. But
depends.
On a walk where you're taking like days to walk between towns, I reckon, like, except for
still
like
enjoyable though. Like, you'd still do bailing up to Donley River again, wouldn't you? That kind of scenery.
Yeah, that sort of thing is okay. But I mean, like, you know, some of the towns where it really is developed and it's just farmland and it's just the same thing every day. I would not enjoy that walking, but I think cycling wise, where maybe in a day you get to another town, that opens up a huge future potential for that whole Southwest as being a section you could travel and tour from town to town. And I really, you know, I stress this, don't make it part of the Munda Biddi, just make it its own thing where you can travel and you could do the whole Southwest as a tour. I think that is great. Again, I think that up north there would be an opportunity for something. Maybe Karijini again is the place. And you could do something kind of like a New Zealand style where they have multi-days that are cycling trails. Something like that would be great up there, just for something different. But otherwise, you know, I think that the whole Southwest plan of linking up all the towns with cycling trails, finishing the Wadandi from Bustleton to Augusta will be excellent.
That would be cool, yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I'd love to see. So it's nothing, I think that the Southwest is getting there. We're just a few years off from that happening.
Yeah. Mine's sort of similar. Like, I'd love to see all the towns in the Southwest linked, so you could be like, I've got 4 days, I'm going to go here, here, and here. And if you've got a friend or use one of the transport services down there, you can easily get between your cars.
Yep.
But the one that I'd really like to see is kind of an east-west trail running between like Bunbury, like Capel, Donnybrook, Boyup Brook. So between Donnybrook and Boyup Brook, they already have the rail trail there. They could easily convert.
Yep.
And then doing the Skeleton Bridge walk at Boyup Brook, I would love to see that linked with Arthur River and follow the Blackwood.
Yep.
Because there is the rail forms there and there's a few old rail bridges, whether you go on them or not. I think cycling that area through like the farmland would be a lot more enjoyable than walking it. And then you could involve these towns along Albany Highway and in the wheat belt that kind of might not get as many visitors with trails. So yeah, I think it'd be a reasonably inexpensive thing to do, and if you market it properly, I think it could be quite spectacular. And agree with the Pilbara, like a bike trail around Karijini would be awesome because you could like cycle from gorge to gorge, and if you had the campsites there, you could stay, and it's just be, you don't need to hire a car to go up there or drive, you know, it's super long. You could fly up there and maybe get a lift, or I don't know how it would work, but you could have tour companies that you could base yourself in Karratha. They drive you out to Karijini and you do a few days out there, and it's not as troublesome as driving your own car up there.
Yeah, and as I've said before, the Hammerleys really should have a mountain bike like network there. That should be like the Whistler of the desert, you know?
Well, that's the thing, like staying at Millstream is they've got the Warringuna Trail, and that goes from the Homestead to Deep Reach Pool. I was like, why is there not more of these trails around the Pilbara? Because it's probably the best way to see it is riding through the spinifex on these dirt trails.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, next question. Looking for new dog trails with brooks. Do you know of any others not on your website? So this one is probably more to address probably why there's not as many hikes that you're allowed your dog on. And that is because most of the good hikes are in state forest or national park, and they bait for foxes there with 1080, and it's not just they go and sprinkle some on the ground, they drop them from the sky, so it's fairly indiscriminate where they land. And if you have heard a tale of a dog eating one of those baits, I wouldn't want to put my dogs through that. So, I mean, I rarely take them out
Yeah.
just in case. And someone we both know lost their dog in Pemberton, in the middle of Pemberton, because the birds, they pick them up and they drop them, so you never know where they're going to be.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible thing to put your dog through, which is why we have a limited supply.
Yeah. So, this is a question that comes up a lot, but I'm also kind of like, just don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, like unless you know for sure that the area is safe, it's just not worth the risk.
Yeah. I mean, within Perth, I think there's maybe only 1 or 2 trails that I haven't done that are dog friendly. So you can take your dog on the Railway Reserves Heritage Trail. You just can't take it into John Forest National Park, which I got yelled at because I had it on the website a while ago, and some guy like, you can't take it into the national park. I was like, it's a 4-wheel drive track through the national park, that bit of the trail. Like, it's not going to hurt anyone, but I took it down anyway. But yeah, there's just not many places you can take your dog.
Yeah, unless you want to go into a time machine, take foxes and cats out of the
Rabbits.
equation.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Then we're good. We can
Yeah.
do it, but not in the situation we live in.
Yeah, but the ones we do have, like Whistlepipe Gully, I think is extremely popular these days. So Noble Falls is another one you can take, that you can walk around the river there or the creek, and yeah, that's probably about it. Unless you're really naughty and you take your dog into Kalamunda National Park, just past Georgeson Park, which a lot of the locals do, and gets me very angry and also happy at the same time because I get to see a dog.
Yeah. I mean, Georgeson Park is perfectly fine for dogs.
Yeah.
Just take them there.
Yeah, lovely. Or you can just walk around the river, around the Perth.
Yeah, sure.
What's your most rewarding vertical hike in WA? So you could come at this from a few angles, whether it's from a fitness point of view, how high you get, the quality of the trail.
I guess, I'd probably have to say something like Mount Bruce or Tulburnup. Like those are really good trails where you have to go uphill and the scenery is great at the end. I think that when a trail has a bit of adventure to it, like both of these trails are class 5, there's some scrambling involved. When you get to the top, it feels like you've earned it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't enjoy Bluff Knoll as a hike because it's walking up steps.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think any of the day hikes that aren't Bluff Knoll, I mean, Mount Trio's kind of got that same feel to it. There's just a lot of steps. So probably, Tulburnup, Magog, Talyubalup, Mount Bruce.
Yeah.
Very rewarding.
Yep.
So this one was a really interesting one. Will the rise in popularity of getting out and exploring our own backyard due to COVID be sustained?
I think if they get the policies right, it can be. And I think that we're seeing that to a degree with cycling. I think they're spending a lot of money on cycle trails. Like they've opened the, Wambanger or Wamburger? What is it?
That's just a rebranding of trails that are already there. I was a bit confused.
But they're
about
also
that.
building new ones.
Well, it's the Arklow ones that they've built, plus the new ones that are coming in Wellington National Park. I mean, I won't comment any further, but I just don't understand the rebranding.
Yeah.
It's not really clear on what the end goal is.
I feel like, as I said to you, a focus group went in and they were like, "Oh, this name really works."
Yeah.
But I guess on that, something I've seen a lot is that people are cycling into the city a lot more. So not just using it for recreation, but using it as like a genuine way to get to places. So I think that we're seeing that. I think that with the hiking trails, if we are going to sustain it, we need to get rid of this like attitude of, "Oh, we're so lucky to have the trails that we do, and we need to build new ones." Because really, for what is possible in WA, we don't have enough new trails. I think that if they built more hiking trails in the Darling Scarp that were interesting, you get people who would sustain this as a thing that they did.
Mm. So with this, I think we both noticed it was around the lockdown period where the traffic to our websites just really, really spiked. Like,
Yeah.
I'll probably do this in my biannual reflections post, and I'll link a graph of the visitor stats month to month comparing last year to this year, and it was just crazy. Like, my best months this year were April, May, June, and I got maybe 2 or 3 times the traffic that I got the previous year. And I think people just, like, when hiking was the only thing that they could do, they then were Googling more, like, where are some of these, like, where are more trails? And within, like, Perth in the southwest, I think you can probably sustain yourself for maybe 2 or 3 years doing some nice trails
Yeah.
before you then start looking like where are all the other trails. And I think that's where we need to jump in and start building more now,
Yep.
just to get people interested. And then also when tourists start returning, there's more to do as well, and you can advertise. Well, there's not just the Billman or the Cape to Cape or the Munda Biddy to do. You can do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
So whether the hiking strategy that just got released this year actually gets some legs and some funding, who knows? But it'll still be 2 to 3 years away before we get more trails that aren't in Dwellingup or Collie.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like they are the centers of the universe, and while I understand the reasoning, there's a lot of worthy places that I think miss out.
Albany could be like Tasmania 2.0 in WA
Oh yeah.
if they just invested the money, and they are to a certain degree. Like I think it's the G Score group down there. That's the Great Southern something. They've got a plan on what they want to do over short, medium, and long term. But I think with extra funding, that area could just be amazing.
Yeah.
World class amazing.
Yeah, there's so much to offer there that really, it's sad that it's not being leveraged in a right way.
And same goes with Pemberton. Like, we've got world class karri forests there to explore, and it's a handful of passionate locals that are trying to drive tourism down there.
Yeah, I mean, third tallest tree in the world. You
Yeah.
know? Like, we should celebrate that a lot more than we do.
But instead, we're going to dam the rivers and log the forest because that makes sense for some reason.
Yep.
So, yeah, I hope it does sustain, because I like seeing people get out, and that's kind of why I started the website, is wanting to encourage more people. So, fingers crossed that everyone are now going through the back channel hikes that no one visits and wants to do more.
Yeah.
And also has a voice to actually get more trails as well. This one came in from our friend Ailey. It doesn't apply to you, Don. It's going to be very short. If someone said to you, hand me the bookmark, would you hand them the book or the bookmark? I'd hand them the bookmark.
Yes.
Done. 2021 plans. I know this is kind of a touchy subject.
So since 2018, I think it's 2018, 2017 maybe. No, 2018 was the first time I actually booked in for it and had to cancel it. I have been trying to do the Thorsby Trail. So this year, that's the main, 2021 is the year that hopefully I will finally make that happen.
And do you want to explain a little bit why this trail you really, really want to do?
Because it's been a bucket list trail, like for me, this has been, especially in 2018 when I was working and living in Queensland, it was, I really love the scenery in Queensland. Not Queensland itself in some ways. But the scenery in Queensland is outstanding. And this is something I've wanted to do for as long as I've been sort of obsessed with trails. So I really hope that it happens this year. I'm hoping that, COVID doesn't prevent it from happening. I'm hoping that the La Nina at the moment, where they're getting torrential downpours in Queensland, doesn't prevent it from happening. I'm hoping bushfires don't prevent it from happening. I'm hoping that life doesn't prevent it from
Aliens
happening.
don't come and invade us and take everything out.
So, like, this is... I just want to do it.
I probably shouldn't have said aliens because we've done some predictions on this podcast before and they've come true.
Don't. So there's that. We're going up to do the trip that we had planned this year up to Ningaloo.
Yep.
So I'm going up to Ningaloo in January because I'm on sort of work is closed for the time, so I'm gonna go up in January. I'm going again in April. I've got this trip planned, hopefully to Queensland, where we're going to do that and the Great Barrier Reef. And then I'm just gone, well, that's that. So, and I'm thinking that work will close again over Christmas next year. So I'm hoping maybe either Tassie or New Zealand. Yeah. How about you?
So I actually have a lot planned in 2021. So like you, Karis and I had a trip planned up the Coral Coast March this year, and luckily we didn't book anything because it would have been right in the middle when everything got shut down for COVID. So we're going to do that, and for Karis's birthday, go swim with the whale sharks and see where her family used to live around Yardie Creek. And then there is talk of another wine and cheese hike in Tasmania around Easter.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'll find out about that before this pod gets released. But touch wood, I'd like to go back, and then I'll probably tack on another week like I did before in Tassie and do some multi-day trails and some day hikes. And then maybe if you've got the time, we can do what we plan to do in June this year before the border closures. Up north, and then I don't know, I kind of want to purchase leave so I can go on some more trips, and then I want to do the Munda Biddy. So going out with you and seeing you complete yours has kind of inspired me to be like, well, why not now? Because it's only I'm planning a 3-week trip. But it was always something that I'd planned to do at the end of a Billman end-to-end when I would be made redundant, which may or may not happen in the next few years, but it's looking unlikely at this stage. So I was like, let's just do it now. And Aaron seems to be quite keen to do that one, or at least for a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that in probably August or September.
Awesome.
And that's about it. I've got lots of other trails that I want to do for fun, and I will actually do them for fun. But yeah, who knows where the year will take us. Hopefully it'll be the complete opposite of this year, and everything will open, the world will get back to some kind of normal. But who knows? Yeah,
I mean, I'm worried that my January plans will be cancelled because of what's happened in Sydney.
Yeah.
So I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that April happens. On that trip as well, we're going to be going via Mount Augustus and Kennedy Range. Yeah. So that'll be cool to add some other interesting areas to the blog.
Yeah.
The other thing is hopefully I'm planning to move the blog to a new website.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Any plans for the website?
Yeah, so that's something that I'm hoping to do next year. See how we go. Because it's going to be a lot of work transferring things. But I'm done with the formatting and issues I have with Blogspot, and I just want something new. So that's the plan. And also I'm thinking of experimenting with a different format with things like with the road trip in January and the road trip in April of writing them up as road trips as well, just so that people get ideas for how they could do a trip that's not just hiking or leading to a place. So that's, how about you?
I'm kind of always tinkering with the website. So if you've noticed this year, there are now interactive maps on the landing pages. I've updated the cover post that you click on the landing pages just recently to I think it looks nicer, but as you've commented, a single one looks nice and then them all jumbled up together kind of is a bit confusing, and it is, but I'm just kind of, that's the best compromise I can come up with at the moment, given I've already done all of them.
Yeah, all the work.
I don't know, I kind of, like, I don't want to settle and rest on my laurels. I'm kind of happy where the website is with the formatting of the posts and how many photos I have. It's just, I take too many photos and therefore I have to write more. And I don't think people enjoy reading it all through. Some people do, but many just want some basic info and look at some photos, and then they go and do their own thing, which is fine. But I don't know, I just like it's always expanding and there's always new trails. I don't know. Not sure what'll come in 2021. I'm sure I'll decide on some new fonts or a new format and then have to change everything and spend a few weeks doing that.
Yep.
But I still have so many trails to ride up from my last trip. I think I'll be going into March or April with those.
Yep. That's good. Get you through the summer.
I know. Well, I just can't wait to get to some of the Albany trails. Like Bald Head, I want to redo because like that, it just has like a few photos and not very many words. And now I'm going to have many photos and lots of words. It'll showcase it in its best light. So
yep.
Looking forward to doing some of those.
Awesome.
Yeah. And obviously with the podcast, we will continue.
Yep.
Bigger and better things.
Yeah.
I know we've already planned out most of like the first half of the year, which is exciting.
Yeah, so hopefully this year we were meant to introduce a seasonal kind of format of like 10 episodes, a break, 10 episodes, and it just didn't happen because we were forced to take a bit of a break because of COVID. So we're going to introduce that next year, and hopefully that will be a sustainable way of doing things.
And stick to it, because I'm sure regular listeners will notice that we've been a bit erratic with our posting. Sometimes it was 8 weeks, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
And then it's 2 weeks and it's 3 weeks. And
yeah.
I mean, you've been really, really busy at work.
Yeah, and I think we've realized that we need to have a bit of a buffer and be a bit more, I guess, keep the consistency by using that buffer to keep it going.
So, and lastly, thank you to everyone who has been listening. I mean, it's great to hear feedback when people meet you and they're like, I listen to your podcast and really enjoy it. I met one guy, Jeremy, at a WA Forest Alliance event, and we were talking about it, and it was really funny because he's like, oh yeah, Donovan. I know Donovan. He's seen 5 echidnas. And then he's like, oh yeah, so what? I was like, oh yeah, I have a hiking website as well. And I hand him my card and he's just like, oh, you're the life of Pi. So it's good to hear feedback when you meet people that they enjoy things.
It's funny when people say like, oh, I recognize your voice.
Yeah. It's really weird as well. Like I remember coming into Walpole on the bib, and it was raining and I had my rain jacket on and no logos anywhere, and this girl coming the other way is like, you're Mark from Real Trail Talk. I was like, how did you know that? Like, we don't really post that much like images of ourselves, but
yeah,
weird world.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you do enjoy the podcast, do recommend to friends, post online, give us a rating or review.
Yep.
Buy some merchandise. I'll put some up in the new year. You can be cool with your exclusive Real Trail Talk t-shirt.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah. Here's to 2020.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.